Okay, Positive Gains is back today. Our special guest is Chaz Bottoms, director, animator, writer, and owner of CBA Studios. Chaz, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, where are you from?
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised there. I was actually spent some time before moving to LA in Chicago. That's where I went to college. So born and raised in Cleveland, but spent about 5 years in Chicago as well.
Okay. How did you get started into animation?
Man, it's one of those things where, I feel like I'm lucky in that I knew I kind of wanted to do animation since I was a kid. Like growing up, I loved cartoons. I loved animation and really the stories that they told. And I knew I wanted to do that right away. So when I found out that animation was like an actual career thing that like someone can go like work and be a part of that industry, I immediately started trying to just find books or like any like behind the scenes on like DVDs where they show you the making of cartoons and really just kind of immersed myself in the world of animation as a kid, um, and tried to make my own cartoons growing up. And really, it wasn't until I got to high school that I really started getting into like digital animation and digital art. Um, and that kind of just kept going until I went to college for it. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
Wow. We've seen some of your work so far, working with Lil Nas X and the Panini cartoon music video version, John Legend and Steve Harvey. So can you talk a little bit about working with those guys and the
Yeah,
experiences that you took from that?
yeah, absolutely. So, to give a bit more context is like for me, just being a young um, black filmmaker, animator, it's been, an interesting journey, just kind of, almost me only being 25 still. It's just I'm still learning so much, and working with those guys was instrumental in just kind of my development as a storyteller and also an animator. Um, and so, with me, I like to leverage social media. I think that's one of the most powerful tools we have as storytellers and just as people who are creative. It's a great way to just kind of get your work out there. And so I always try to foster community on social media. And you can do that in a variety of ways. It's outside of posting every day. You don't even really need to do that. But just
Mhm.
engaging with other people who are um, doing dope stuff that you want to work with one. And so when it comes to like the Panini video, a great friend of mine, Imani LaRusso, who's a super dope two-time Emmy winner, motion graphics artist, she had kind of secured this gig with me and her kind of essentially her being on the motion graphic side and me knowing like character 2D animation. We were able to kind of come together and get that bid for the Panini video. And just, for me, music videos is where I've kind of lived in for most of my career so far.
Wow.
Definitely trying to make the jump from music videos to more narrative TV and film. But I definitely had a portfolio that kind of showed I could handle 2D animated characters and vibes and kind of execute a variety of visions and styles. And so, um, for the Panini video, we had 3 days to make it.
Wow.
Um, so it was a really like kind of run and gun. You really just kind of had to trust the team that we put together, and we were able to execute it. And for me, it's always been about how do you kind of use those gigs and those projects to leverage the next one. And so, you kind of want to use each project to build um, just your portfolio, but also your relationships and your networking.
Right.
Um, and so, with that project, I wasn't super privy to some of the folks over at Columbia Records, but this project kind of opened up the door for me to meet those folks and really get to know them, and also have their trust to have created the video in 3 days and for it to look as dope as it does. It took a lot of work, and so they were able to recognize that, and that's what that's what led to the John Legend piece. It's led to other videos as well, working with like Noah Cyrus and Leon
Okay.
Bridges. And just always trying to foster those relationships, and also just let people know what it is you do. I was definitely letting people know that I was a director, animator, and they just check out my work, and if there's a video or a project that um, has a similar aesthetic, you can feel confident in leaving it in hands with me. And similarly to Steve Harvey, it was one of those things where you just make the connection to some of his people behind the scenes, and they had seen my work just
Hmm.
across social media and had reached out to see if we could make a series. And so that one required a test, actually, that we had to do, and that ended up being the first Kiss episode. And once we did the test, they were like, "Oh yeah, this is again." I mean, I think so much of it is just about trust and being able to show that you can execute a vision, not just from a like content standpoint, but also from a quality standpoint. And so, always looking to just improve upon storytelling, fundamentals, and just try to get better with each project.
Wow. Yeah, and with animation, it's such a big, not sure the words exactly, but it's just such a large amount of people that, like you say, it takes a lot of people behind the scenes, because I know for me personally, when I watch a movie, especially a cartoon movie with my kids, it'll be a good movie, and then it's hard to, I got to remind myself to have an appreciation for what the artists were doing, because a lot of times you just say, oh, it was a great movie, and then you take off, and then you don't remember, like, hey, look at all the hard work that was put behind it. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's pretty tough. So for you, what's a typical day, like when you're doing animation, or if you're directing, you're writing, what's a normal day for you look like?
Yeah, so having a boutique production company or animation studio, it varies. Definitely, we're still. This will be at the end of this year will be 2 years kind of up and running. And so it's been great. But yeah, I mean, I wear kind of a different hat every day, kind of just depending on what needs to be done for the projects that we're working on. And so typically my mornings are I kind of reserve that for what I like to call notes or dailies. And so what that typically is if we're working on a project, and let's say I'm directing an animation team.
Hmm.
Typically, I spend the mornings going over just their work that they've submitted, and so um, for me, that'll be just like taking a screen grab of like a frame of a drawing and saying, "Oh, we need to fix the eyes here," or "Oh, we need to work on the pose here," or "This character is a little off model." Sometimes it's me hopping on a Zoom call with them and just talking through the scene if it's a bit more complex. Just really making sure that that's where the acting kind of happens and the revisions kind of take place. And then afternoon typically is my work schedule or meeting schedule. So a lot of times too, I'll be in project meetings, especially with just like some of the bigger gigs. Like when you're on, typically you have to be on these meetings every few days, just making sure that the work you're doing is approved by everyone.
Yeah.
Typically there'll be a lot of people who need to sign off on things, and so for me, it's just making sure that they're fully aware of whether it be bandwidth or just what's possible within the scope of a project, and just kind of managing all of those different expectations of, people hear animation and, their mind goes, it goes
Yeah.
all over the place. And so for me, it's kind of like, all right, well, let's try to reel that in into something that's concrete and a specific, idea. And, oftentimes too, people aren't super aware of the whole animation process. So I'm also kind of teaching them along the way, like, hey, this is like, yeah, we do need the voiceovers before we start animating, or,
Okay.
just little stuff like that. And, if it's not that, then I'm typically just animating at my desk, or storyboarding, or working on a character design, or compositing or editing. It just kind of depends on where I'm at with the project.
And like you said, wearing multiple hats, animation, writing, and directing, which do you kind of gravitate more towards, if there is one, or are they all the same for you?
Yeah, for me, it's all kind of the same. It's all storytelling, I think. Just kind of slightly different mediums. I think I gravitate more towards um, writing and directing. I love animation, and I definitely animate. I would animate even if I wasn't in the animation industry.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I like stories. I like character development. I like arcs. I like, to incorporate themes. Kind of having that big picture vision for a project, and then being able to galvanize a group of artists to then go out and execute um, that vision. And then, I feel like that's what I, am at my best, and when I like waking up and being able to go out and, you know, have a team, and just being able to all of us come together and create something really dope. That's always been the most enjoyable part of the process for me.
So with new people coming in, high school kids, potential artists, writers, what advice would you give them? Because I know for me, I know a few people that they do artistry on the side, animation, but it's more of a hobby for them. And I feel like if maybe here, if we had a little bit more emphasis on, in our art projects and our program, maybe they would be, you know what I mean, a little bit more out there. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure for you exactly, but what advice would you give somebody, whether you have a prominent art school that they can go to, or if you're from a small town and you're just trying to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple things for sure. One of them is, I think experience is the best teacher. And so that can mean like several different things, whether that be um, apprenticeship, internship, mentorship uh, positions. So just, trying to be vocal about, like, if you want to mentor, just there's so many people online who are just kind of willing to mentor people in
Mm-hmm.
the animation industry. So if you come across someone who might be offering that, I would definitely say to take advantage of it. um, I know, like, if you're newer, you might not have like the work portfolio yet to really start getting freelance gigs. But I think that there's still, it's all kind of about that community, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
So, finding other artists who are maybe at your skill level at the time, galvanizing that community, because that'll be the community that you kind of grow with. I've noticed that a lot of the people who are my peers are, about the same age as me, or around the same age as me. And to see
Mm-hmm.
everyone's growth and development the last 3 years, it's crazy. I can only imagine, as we all move through our careers, we'll be the ones kind of hiring each other as we move through the industry. And so I would just say, yeah, just try to also find that community online. There are several different places, whether it be Instagram or Twitter or just other art communities that are out there.
Uh-huh.
And then lastly, I would say, there's so many great resources outside of a traditional art school online. There are classes that you can take for storyboarding, directing, character design, all facets of the industry that are at a fraction of the cost of a semester at like an art school.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I would also recommend looking into those because, in this industry, yeah, it's nice to have a degree, but you don't really need it. Like, I mean, at
Wow.
the end of the day, like if the portfolio speaks, that's all we really care about. Like, you could not have gone to, and, this happens in animation all the time where, you do have kids who kind of come out 18, 19, they'll literally drop out of school to go work at a big animation studio because their portfolio is just there already,
Wow.
so if that's the case, then it looks, I know everyone kind of talks about the importance of a college degree, and it is, I have one in animation, and I'm thankful for my experience at animation school. It was cool to just meet other animators who were
Yeah.
my same age, and we were all kind of in that 4-year program together. But you can still kind of have that similar camaraderie and meeting those peers through social media, through classes. Like, if you're in California or Los Angeles or New York, there's a pretty good animation community where you can also just go to classes. I mean, I'm not sure how that stuff is now with COVID, but
Right.
like there's ways to go out and meet people. And I think a lot of it is just kind of figuring out what steps you need to take to get better. If you have an overall career goal, kind of figuring out what that is, and then retroactively working backwards to try to figure out those steps that you might need to take to go about doing it. But you can't be afraid of failure. You can't be afraid of rejection or
Yeah.
getting like hearing people say no. I've definitely heard way more no's than yes in my day.
Yeah.
And I've always just kind of had that mindset of, if someone says no, then it's not for me, or I need to, if I need to figure out why they said no. All right, do I need to get better at like my draftsmanship? Do I need to get better at is it the software? Like what, you try to figure out what it is that you want to improve upon, and that way you're just kind of always sharpening your toolkit. Like I think I'll always have the mentality of a student.
Yeah. Well, you're never too old to learn, And
Yeah.
so where can we see more of your work? I know you have your sweatshirt there. If you want to talk about that piece.
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the reasons why I started a boutique animation studio, one was to kind of foster Black talent in the industry, and primarily young Black talent like myself and my peers. But it was also to develop original IP. And Batu, an animated musical, is the first project that we're putting out. We're almost done with it. But it's a original hip hop animated musical set in Chicago about two kids, Otis and Jada, trying to compete for a spot in a prestigious dance troupe. And it's kind of my love letter to the city of Chicago. And it's Chicago influenced music mixed with Broadway melodies.
Wow.
The dance form that we're using is a Chicago originated dance form called hip lay, which is a combination of hip hop and ballet, which is super dope. The founder of it by His name is Homer Hans Bryant. He's in the short. It's really fun. It's a really fun project, super heartfelt. I'm very excited that we're almost done with it. We did a Kickstarter for it just about last year, which was super successful. And, we're just right around the finish line now for it. It's a 15-minute short film. So it's definitely it's the lengthiest project that I've worked on in the animation space. And yeah, we're really excited for it. The cast is all Chicago-based artists. Literally, it's trying to just, do something a little bit different in animation.
Yeah.
Put characters on screen that we haven't quite seen before. I want to show different body types, different skin tones, just Black characters that you haven't quite really seen on screen moving and being joyful too. I think that's, the greatest thing about that too. It's just a joyful, fun, heartwarming project that I can't wait for it to come out. And, for more information on that, you can follow we have a Twitter and an Instagram at Back2Musical. And that there you can find just updates on the project, the music. I'll be giving some of these hoodies away soon on it.
Okay.
So if you follow, just stay tuned for that, and you might be able to wear one of these yourself. And yeah, and just for my general work, chazbottoms.com is a great place to start. That's where I house all my freelance projects and short films, and you can just see some of my portfolio stuff as well.
And on there, on your official website, I imagine people can find your social media tab on there as well.
Yes, my Instagram at Chaz Draws is also attached to my website, and my Twitter at Chazzy McFly is also on my website.
Shout out to the reference of Back to the Future.
Yes, I mean that's one of my favorite movies ever. I love it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I think we've covered everything, Chaz. I appreciate the interview. I can't wait to see the musical come out, as well as other work that you've got going on.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks so much for having me. And yeah, I'm really excited to just happy that I'm able to do what I love for a living, and want to make sure that I'm always trying to kind of push the envelope on Black representation, specifically within animation. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you again for the interview, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. You take care.
All right. Peace.